Yo, 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 we are back. Where you recording from, Brandon? I'm in Orlando.
Orlando, Florida. I love Orlando, Florida. I actually went to Orlando last year. I was supposed so. Oh, do you ever give these kind of gifts where you're like, I give you a promise that someday later I'll take you on a vacation, like those kind of like delayed gifts. Like I used to do those a lot when I had no money. I'd be like, oh well, in the future I'm going to take you to Disneyland or Disney World or whatever. So with my ex girlfriend, it was time to pay the piper. She'd been like, you promised me Disneyland for 2 years now and you've never done it. And I was like, okay. Like, no worries. Now we're going to get it. So then I started looking up like how to get to Disneyland, and you had to book reservations because of COVID. And it wasn't going to work in the time frame. And I'm like, oh, sorry, you can't go. She goes, well, what about Disney World? All right, touche. Florida's wild, wild west, baby, and there's like 5 parks. So ended up going to Orlando, Florida. I think it ended up probably being cheaper than going to California, which is our neighbor state. But I loved Orlando. It was actually so much fun. Stayed at the Gaylord Resort or whatever, and they had like the garden in the middle of the thing, and then all the little alligators and stuff in the hotel. Beautiful facility. Disney World was actually a lot of fun. Like, I'm not a big Disney guy, but man, that was way fun. How are you liking it?
I love Florida. I love it. It's all the crazy people are here. I always say all the time, like crazy people are in Russia and they're in Florida. Like all the weird stuff you see on TikTok, all the weird videos. It's one of those two places. I love Florida. I was telling the guys yesterday, I'm out here for fights. We've got 3 guys on the UFC card this week. And yesterday on the way back, I was telling Angel Cejudo about how much I love Florida. And he's like, really? You like it out here? And I said, look, I would move tomorrow and never talk to one of you again. Like nothing. Like if you called me, I'd be like, I don't know who you are. Like I'm moving to Florida. I'm in.
That's your Argentinian farm is Florida?
My Argentinian farm is a little like bungalow.
Little Dade County?
That's it. Bungalow in Tampa, Florida, near the Gulf where I could just go fish, or honestly in the Keys. I love the Florida Keys as well. So man, put me anywhere in Florida and I am good to go for the rest of my days.
I've only been to Florida a few times. So when I used to travel a lot for jiu-jitsu, one of the tournaments that I did was the Boca Raton Open. And, I was a young kid. I think I was like 18 at the time, maybe 7. I don't even know how old I was. I wasn't very old. And so, logistics was a problem for me, like booking stuff, making sure honestly, that's to this day, I can barely book a hotel and get the right dates. But I ended up showing up in Florida a day before my Airbnb reservation was supposed to be. And Florida, much like Arizona or a lot of places, is very hit or miss. You have one really nice neighborhood followed by the next neighborhood that's you better run. So I showed up. I was like, hey, I'm here to check in. She's like, I don't have you for a reservation. Luckily, the lady was really nice. Let me check in early. And Boca Raton is one of the nicest places in all of Florida. It's where all the rich people live. So I was exploring. I had to take Ubers everywhere and just kind of getting into stuff. And I turned one bad neighborhood and then go to the good one. But one thing I thought was pretty funny was like, so I just came back from Austria, and my friends are Bosnian. They're from the Balkans, and I just asked them like, "Hey, take me to the most traditional place." And so in Florida, I stumbled across like the Jamaicans place and had jerk chicken with the Jamaicans. They're like, "Who is this like little white boy that just snuck into this place?" They're like, "All right, let me take care of you. Let me take care of you." And I got to try like authentic like jerk chicken from the Jamaicans, and I love it.
Nice. Yeah, you just got back from a hell of a trip too, which is why we're doing this late. You were in what, Austria for how long?
Well, okay, so here's how it is, guys. So we had the UFC off last week, thank God, because I would not have had time for all this. So 2 weeks ago, we went out for fight week for our teammate Vanessa Demopoulos, and was there all week in Vegas. She looked great. She beat the piss out of that girl.
And a lot of you guys were
all her
hating.
detractors.
People were hating. I don't know about you guys, whoever's listening, but you know who you are, you son of a bitches. And she killed it, man. She killed it. She looked good.
Yeah, she followed what's kind of funny is you and I were talking about the game plan, like right before she walked out. We're like, all right, actually don't stalk her down, like kind of wait on the outside, split the round. Like we were talking about this right before she was walking out. And then she executed it great, looked great. She dropped her, which is super impressive. So that happened. And then the next day I hopped on a plane to Austria to go teach jiu-jitsu for a week with my friend Arturo. And that was great, rolling, training with the guys. And then I traveled basically for 27 hours coming back to Phoenix. So my typical study days, right, are Sunday and Monday. That's the days that I have off. So I'll start my tape and start everything. I was awake for 27 hours straight. So then it bleeds into Tuesday. And then I'm like, all right, I'm still pretty jet lagged. I can barely hold my eyes open. And here we are. So little late on the podcast this time, but we will get it back on track.
It's hard. It's hard with these fight weeks. And, I travel a lot and you guys know, but man, fight weeks are hard to coordinate podcast time because just the time difference. I don't have gear. I'm on my iPhone this time. Normally I'm at my desk with, a actual microphone and everything. It's hard to find a place to actually sit down. We tried doing this a few minutes ago. There's no Wi-Fi in the meeting rooms. I just had to pay $24.95 for access to Wi-Fi down here for 40 minutes or however long we're going to be doing this. It's just a hard logistical thing to do while we're traveling and doing stuff, but we're here. I'm ready. You're ready. Let's do this thing. Let's go.
Let's kick it off. All right. So very first fight of the night is going to be Yasmin. I'm never going to say this right, so I'll just call her Yazzie Jaggy. Yasmin Jaguar versus Istela Nunes. And if you don't mind, could I kick this one off?
Go for it. It's funny because I was going to ask to do the same thing, but go.
Well, I wanted to say what I have to say, and then I wanted to hear what you have to say because, lately what I've been doing, I try not to tweet out too much stuff about too much fights anymore because sometimes when I tweet stuff, it impacts the smaller markets and kind of ruins stuff for me and people jump on it. UFC, I feel free. I don't have enough money or followers to change anything, so I can just talk. So I was tweeting some notes, just kind of as I'm watching film, and man, people were up in arms, and it's people can't even really read what I'm saying. So let's kick this off. So first and foremost, I love both of these girls. I really do. Yasmin, I think is awesome. She looked great in her UFC debut. She's got fast hands, good counter punching. She's got insane cardio. She's got a lot of the great attributes. And then on the other side of things, Istela Nunes. I've been dying on my shield for Istela Nunes the last two fights, and I'm pretty embarrassed about it. But I don't think I was necessarily wrong in both of those fights. Right? She got a little bit tired, maybe a mismanagement of energy. Now when I watch this fight, I'm like, man, if they're trying to build Yasmin, I feel like there's 15 other easier fights they could have given her to build her up. So the way that I'm looking at this fight, right? Yasmin is pretty heavy on the front foot. She had one fight where she kind of went life or death with a 20-year-old grappling Brazilian making her UFC debut, which the fight itself was great. Both those girls belong in the UFC, but that being said, that girl was a 20-year-old grappler, right? Estella is having pretty good fights with Sam Hughes. So say what you want about her, but she's been winning fights in the UFC. Carnelossi, same thing. Say what you want about her, but she's been winning fights in the UFC. Just skill for skill, I think Estella is very, very good. The big difference in this fight to me is the first two matchups that Estella had was two girls that press forward like crazy. It's nonstop pressure. It's nonstop, forward movement. Carnelossi was moving, working with the grappling edge, right? And that kind of tired out Estella. Sam just kept pressing forward and wouldn't fuck off. And, Estella had to throw so hard to try to keep her off of her that obviously she gassed too, right? You can't throw full power for 15 minutes straight. It's never going to happen. The way that I'm looking at this matchup, I mean, what is Yasmin, a 3-1 favorite here? She's minus 330. Seems insane to me. And the reason being is, watching Yasmin and how she fights, she's much more of a counterpuncher. Someone on Twitter was yelling at me. They're like, no, she's not. Watch her old tape as opposed to her most recent fight. And I'm like, yeah, she's fighting lunch ladies. Of course she's going to be the one moving forward. She's finishing these fights how she's supposed to. She took a step up to the UFC and now she's a counterpuncher, and there's nothing wrong with being a counterpuncher. That girl swing on her, she swing back, and now she counters and looks great doing it. But you're kind of giving Estella the fight that she wants now, right? If you're not pressing her and forcing her to fire off, now you're having a technical fight. And the only thing that I keep seeing is first of all, Stella is explosive. She throws amazing hooks. She comes from crazy angles. But to me, the biggest thing is going to be the leg kicks. Just how much Yasmin is planted on, heavy on that front foot, and how many leg kicks that Estella throws. I think that's going to be a big factor in this. Now, at the end of the day, who do I think is going to win this fight? Man, it's pretty hard to say Estella is going to go out and win the fight because, she's shown to kind of break over time in each of the fights. But the matchup is very closer, a lot closer to me on paper than the odds are indicating. So for me, I think the best bet here, I like the Estela Nunes, the spread. Let's see what it is. So her spread is 3.5 and it's minus 105. I think that's solid. I think that Estella easily wins a round, if not could win the fight. So I guess, gun to my head, I'd probably pick Yasmin because I know that's the A side. I know that's who they want to win so desperately. But I mean, Yasmin's training at, Entram Gym, which is bones now. And Estella's training with top girls at ATT. She can strike. She can move. She's dynamic. I'm going to go with Estella one last time, one last rodeo.
It's funny you say that. Well, first of all, the biggest issue with everything that you said, and I think I might take big offense to this, or it's something. Do they have lunch ladies in Mexico? Is that a thing? Like, I know we have cab drivers for the guys, but like, do they actually have like school lunch? I don't know. Just a question. I don't even know if that's a thing.
We're getting into some geopolitics now.
Go.
That's not so good.
No, it's funny that you say that because I thought, man, the whole bit. I honestly agree with every single thing that you're saying. When I was watching tape on this, I'm going, man, this is a really, really close fight. And I'll get to my breakdown in a second. But I was actually thinking this fight is going to go to split decision. This is an absolute split decision fight, or at least a decision fight. And I was like, let me look the odds up. And I actually didn't end up looking the odds up on that. I got busy with some other stuff. But then I went and looked at the actual odds of the fight. And I saw that Yasmin is a 3-1 favorite. And I was like, what the hell is going on here? That's insane. So you said it. So Yasmin, first of all, Yasmin's technical striking, I would say, is cleaner. If you're looking at the two, Yasmin's tighter. She's a tighter guard. She's more, I wouldn't say reserved, but just less movement, more traditional Thai style. You know what I mean? And I would say that that's a fair assessment. Her cardio is definitely better. And she's active. You know what I mean? She's pretty active for the most part, but you're right. She is a counter fighter. And whoever gave you shit for that is I think nuts, because I think they're an idiot. But and come at me, whoever you are. So,
like, are you retarded? That she's not a counter fighter. I'm like, I just watched the fight.
Anyway,
like,
the other thing though is, Estella, I think you were right. You touched on it, but you said the key is going to be the leg kicks, which I don't necessarily disagree. But you touched on, you said the angles. Estella's footwork and angles are really, really good. She moves laterally really well, and she has power. She's very dynamic. She slips off one way, fires, she goes the other way, and she'll switch directions, switch stances, and she's a really good lateral counter fighter with really good power. I think she's a lot more athletic than Yasmin. I think you touch on it as well, as she fades a little bit in the later rounds, but with Sam Hughes, I don't really think she faded so much. Sam Hughes made good adjustments in the corner. Sam Hughes lost that fight pretty much every second until she won it. I mean, it was standing up. She was getting her ass beat, and then she got a takedown late in the second round. And in between round 2 and 3, I'm assuming her corner was like, go in there, clinch her, get her ass to the ground. And so she switched up the game plan, but I don't think that was necessarily Estella fading. That was just she couldn't defend the body lock takedown. On the other side, and then in the fight before that, you had Carnelossi, who legitimately is not very good, but she's strong. She's the right fighter to beat Estella when she's pressing her forward and pushing her to the cage and getting her to the ground. Yasmin is not that fighter at all. I am with you. Not even gun to my head, I lean Estella for the fight. This is going to be a very close fight, you guys. So don't get me wrong. This isn't going to be a blowout either way. But I think Estella wins this fight, and I think the UFC is happy with the matchup because you've got two young, pretty girls who are strikers. If Estella wins, well, that gets her back in the win column. If Yasmin loses, which I think is very possible, well, she's 1-1 in the UFC, and she can still rebound. So I think the UFC might actually want Estella to win, and it's kind of both girls are now still in the UFC, and it gives them both time to develop. Estella's at ATT, which is a really good gym right now. I think she's just going to get better and better. I like Estella Nunez here. I think it's going to be a close fight. I think she's going to win the first 2 rounds and then probably give up the third round in a very close. Again, you could have a very close fight, all rounds be very close, and it still is a unanimous decision. But I think this is exactly.
Clear winner.
I think not even a clear winner. I think even a unanimous decision can be very controversial if each round is very close. So I expect Estella to win round one. I expect Yasmin to win round three. Round two is going to be the differentiator, is who can steal enough to win that round. I think Estella is going to have enough energy management because of the style of fight that I think she's going to win this fight by a decision. So anyway,
And that is the big thing. That is the biggest thing that I think people are missing. And we could be told to look like idiots. And the biggest example for me would be like Randy Costa. Like when I was dying on this, I was like, well, the style of fight with Randy Costa and Tony Kelly, and he's going to be fine and all this stuff. And then it ended up being like exactly what I thought he was. But I think the style of fight is going to favor Estella in this, and her cardio is going to look otherworldly compared to the last two fights, just from the style of
yep,
fights.
I agree.
All right. Let's move on. We have Francis Marshall versus Marcelo Rojo.
Against Marcelo who?
Rojo.
Okay, I had to hear that one more time. This is so I did a early kind of release breakdown on this. I think I posted it. Did I post this on there? I think so. Man, everything blends when I'm out of town. So I think I posted this on the Discord and the Patreon already. Well, not the Discord, but the Patreon. Marshall is a good up and coming young kid. He looks the part, so the UFC loves that. Good looking kid from Jersey. He's 23 years old. He said he's been boxing for for years. Clean boxing. It's not world beaterish, but good offense, good, clean technical strikes, fast, dynamic. Excuse me. I like his stuff. He's not a world beater wrestler, but he times his takedowns well, and he knows how to MMA wrestle. He's been training with Kurt Pellegrino for years. Pellegrino's an old, salty UFC vet and a really good New Jersey state wrestler. He does all of the stuff. I like Marshall. He's a very young and talented kid. And I'm going to say this. I wrote it down. I'm going to say it here. He shouldn't be in the UFC yet. It's too early, you guys. And not just him, a lot of these guys, Randy Costa. Costa was good. He was just too early in his career. The Contender Series is ruining a lot of really good, talented, up-and-coming fighters because these guys are going to Contender at 4, 5, 6, and 0. And that is not enough time for them to develop in their career. It's one thing if they're 30, 32 years old and they're 4, 5, 6, and 0. Hey, you got to get this going. These young kids at this age don't have enough experience to really to fully execute everything that they could. Who is the kid? Kmore from Ohio, from Stipe's gym. No,
AJ Dobson.
AJ Dobson.
AJ Dobson.
Claymore, something like that. White kid, 185 or 205 or kind of short. Gosh, I know you guys know him. You'll
I don't know.
Yell at me or something. Alexis Kmore.
Kamer. Yeah,
that
Kamer.
kid, really talented, but like 5 or 6 and 0, kind of gassed out. Randy Costa, really talented, but gassed us out. You see these young guys who are really talented, but they need a couple of really good dog fights in them before they get to the UFC. So when they get to the UFC, they're ready for the UFC and they're ready for that step up. And it doesn't matter to the UFC because they need the fights filled on ESPN cards or they don't get money for it. There's a certain number. I believe the number is they need 7 fights to go off or they don't get paid for the card for these fight nights. So they fill the undercard with Contender Series fights. So now they have that. So now they get their stuff. And then if the guys make it, they make it. If they don't, they don't. Who cares? And then on the Contender side, you get programming for the UFC app for Fight Pass. And so it's a win-win for them. Now, on the other side of that, we have Marcelo Rojo. And I have said this before, and you have fought me tooth and nail on it. He's a punching bag. I just don't see, he's not bad anywhere, but he's not good anywhere either. And his best attribute is he's just tough and he stays there and he kind of plods forward and he moves and he's a salty vet. Okay, so that is his best attribute to me. I don't think his striking is bad, but I don't think it's great. I think he plods forward, hopes to get into a firefight and exchanges, and he lands some, he gets landed on. His defensive wrestling is not bad, but if you chain wrestle or if you shoot 2 times in 10 seconds. He'll stop the first shot. All right, if you shoot again, you're pushing him in the cage and you're getting the shot. His cardio is good. That's probably his best weapon, and he's just there. He's a durable guy. I think for this fight, I really like Marshall in this fight. He is the A side. He should win. He should not be there this soon, but I think Marcelo Rojo is the one guy in the division in the UFC that he could win and look good on and have a good, tough fight, but come out the victor. That said, if he loses, it's going to be some experience shit. It's going to be the old salty dog, stays in there long enough. And, Marshall, for as much as I like his offensive striking at the level where he's at, I don't think he's a world beater. He has some very major holes in his striking defensively. Yep, chin is up and he's throwing wide and he's not overly skilled. He's just young and athletic. So I think he can win here. I think I like him here, but man, don't be too shocked if Rojo, does some vet shit to a really young kid, something that he would not win 3 fights from now. I think it's his only shot, but I like Marshall here. I hate seeing him here too early.
I think that's funny you said I fought you tooth and nail on Marcelo Rojo. I don't know about that. Come on. I don't know about that. Watching Marcelo Rojo, man, everyone's kidding. I think everybody's kidding themselves with Marcelo Rojo, right? He didn't die like how he was supposed to against Charles Jourdain, and all of a sudden people have this image in their mind that he's amazing and he's the second coming. Let's be honest with him, guys. He's 34 years old. He's 16-8 fighting on a regional circuit in Latin America, and he's 0-2 in the UFC and been finished both times. So let's be very honest about him, right? This is a tee-up fight. He's a pawn in this game of chess for Francis Marshall to win, and Francis Marshall looked great. A couple things about Francis. So I was actually on the Matthews train in that Contender Series fight, and it was hard because there really wasn't much tape on Matthews. It was a lot of hearsay in the gym. Okay, he's training with Rob Font. He's training with these guys, and I was messaging all of them. The one thing that I consistently got from people was that Matthews had insane one-touch power, like just crazy power. Now, if you go back and watch the fight, Francis Marshall was getting tagged up a few times, right? We talked about it. He keeps his hands low, chin up in firefights, and that's alarming to be honest. But if Matthews has the power that people say that he does, Francis ate it and didn't blink. He looked great. Like, his offensive striking is very good. Like, he throws great power in his 1s and 2s, changes wrestling together. I was a little worried that his cardio, like on the rewatch of that fight, was going to fail him. It didn't really. He looked great bell to bell. He looks like a guy that could get tired, but I think that Matthews kid is better than people think, and Rojo's not as good as people think. He's slow. He plods forward. He doesn't throw with insane power. He's almost like caught in between being a volume guy and a power guy. He won't really commit to either side of those, right? He's not going to move his head and out jab you for 3 rounds, but he's also not going to put a stamp on things, and that's the real problem with him. Like you said, defends first takedown enough, but not the second and the third takedown. I think too many people are overthinking this fight. And again, we could come back to look like idiots, pull some vet stuff, but he's 16-8, tattoos everywhere. Like, he just looks like he'd been through the ringer. And this is a showcase for the young kid. I like me some Francis Marshall here. I think this is the clear A-side spot. I think he's got the skills. I think somebody inside knows something about him and knows that he is the goods. But I would agree with you too. It's a little bit early for him, but honestly, most of the people on Contender was a bit early. So I think we're both going Francis Marshall here. All right. So that will take us to Mr. Natan Levy versus Genaro Valdez. And I will get this one started. I think this one's my favorite spot on the entire card. Weirdly, is Natan Levy the best guy on the entire card? Definitely not, but I think this is the best matchup on the entire card. I just put a play in on this morning as a single. I couldn't believe that the odds are kind of what they are. Watching Genaro, man, this guy is the definition of an ape. I bet on him huge in his Contender Series fight before the odds ran and he was like minus 1,000 or 1,200 or whatever. I bet on Genaro. I was like, yeah, he's a dog. He wrestles people. He wears them out, gets to mount and finishes it. And man, his Contender Series fight and his UFC fight couldn't have looked any worse. He comes out swinging, has no game plan, no semblance of anything, can't really wrestle that well, tires himself out, and then just prays to God that he's going to somehow catch something, right? Natan Levy, for what he is, I've been able to cap Natan Levy very well. I knew he was going to lose to Rafa Garcia, because I know Rafa Garcia is way better than people think that he is. And then I knew he was going to beat Mike Breeden, because Mike Breeden I don't think is UFC level. That being said, I would probably even take Mike Breeden over Genaro Valdez as well. I think Genaro's first round or bust, maybe even first 2 minutes or bust. I don't think he's going to out-wrestle Natan. I don't think he's going to outstrike Natan. Natan being a southpaw is something of note just because the distance is different. And when you have no game plan and no fight IQ and you just come out there chucking hammers, now try to fight a guy who's southpaw. Like, the punches don't work, the same things don't work. And if you don't really know how to fight a southpaw and have a game plan and things that you like to do, good luck. It's just such a hard distance. And the southpaws are used to fighting orthodox people every day. And so I give a big advantage to Natan. I think he stays safe on the feet. I think he's a better grappler. I think the people in Vegas love the Jews. I think they know something about Natan in the gym at Extreme, and I think this is going to be his showcase spot. So for me, Natan Levy all the way.
I'm going to keep this short. I think you're like, I am so with you on, I'm not big on Natan Levy. You guys have heard us talk about Natan Levy, over the year, months, whatever. He is just better everywhere than Genaro. Like, he's just a better fighter. He's just absolutely a better fighter everywhere. Even, we've been kind of critical of his cardio and his energy management in the past. That doesn't even play here, because on the other side of it, because
Genaro's not a marathon runner.
Out there ape shit for 2 minutes. And we saw in the Contender Series how tired he got. The guy he beat on Contender Series, I think he was 9-1 at the time. Like, 7 of those wins are in Alaska Fighting Championships against Inuit Eskimo dogs, like lunch ladies. Okay?
Lunch ladies.
Exactly. So, no, I just think Natan Levy is a phenomenal spot here. He's better everywhere. Fade him next fight, but today is not the day to fade that dude. Natan Levy wins this.
Let's put it 2 ways. Okay, Genaro comes out and he fights like he has on Contender and in the UFC, and he goes batshit crazy. If he doesn't finish, which it's hard because he's not actually putting good punches together. He's throwing short, loopy punches, and he's got short arms. So he comes out like apeshit crazy. His only chance to win, he gasses himself and he loses easily. If he comes out reserved and clean and crisp and energy management, then he's not as good as Natan. He's just not as good as Natan. He's going to get picked apart and he's going to get taken down and he's going to lose. So I think either way here, I really like this spot.
Love it. Oh, man.
All right. Next up, Miss Tracy Cortez versus Amanda Ribas.
Just doing a podcast for these fights. Podcast for the fights. Okay. Be done in a minute. Just down here in the lobby. Senor, yes.
Did Anders just yell at you?
Yes, he did. This is one of 3 fights of ours on the card, Tracy and Ribas. And as you guys know, and first of all, for all of the weird betting stuff that's going on, this is why we never talk about our fights. This is, everyone got mad at me. Oh, you're not going to talk about your fighter. Oh, you don't believe in them. Oh, this, oh, that. No, idiots. I don't talk about my fighters. Good, bad, ugly, ever.
Very smart.
All I'm going to say about this one is, Tracy's been with me since she was an amateur. I love to see her progress. Love her family. I've known them all. That's it. That is it. I will say about Ribas, she looked really good in a dress when she was checking in at the UFC. I'm out. That's it. That's all I got.
I'll chat just a little bit about this one. We have a few teammates on the card. I'm not sure if JSP has ever spoke a word to me. We've trained and rolled together. Not one word has been said between the two of us. I think he hates me. I'm not really sure. But Tracy, I was main training partner for a lot of years, and I've been close with Tracy for a long time. We'll kind of stick in the way of neutrality. But I will say a couple things. First, Tracy's big for her weight class. She is. She's 5'5". She's thick. She's well built. Amanda's, she 2 fights ago moved up from the weight class below. She's 5'3", maybe a tweener. She's got trouble making that weight, but she's not big for flyweight. Tracy can wrestle, guys. Tracy can actually wrestle, and that's such a unique trait. She's been working with you and me for the last, 5-6 years, something like that, on jiu-jitsu and cage control and wrestling and fight IQ and everything in between. So me personally, I love Tracy. I think this is a great fight for her. I think maybe the last fight was probably even a tougher fight for her. But yeah, we'll kind of stick neutral. I like Tracy. I think she's
the next
good.
up, I think we have JSP and Darren Elkins, which it was really hard for us as coaches to coach back to back. Had to do it last week with Vanessa and Kevin Natividad, and that was really hard. I had to wear Vanessa's jacket and Kevin's shirt underneath it. After Vanessa won, I had to take my sweatshirt off, handed it to you, and then went and cornered Kevin right afterwards. So it's really hard. The logistics of it is all really hard as well. Just fight week stuff, warming them up, and then of course we have Anders later. So it's just hard. All I'll say with JP is anytime any of us speak, like all fight week, all right, and we're talking to JP, we're talking about JP, we're referencing anything at all, it's said in the worst Tennessee accent ever. And it's just like Bobby Moffett, who's here with us, has not used his own voice since we've been here. Everything's like this, like talking JP. He actually did the same thing in London, and he would only speak in like a bad British accent for like 7 days. And finally, me and Eddie were like, dude, you've got to stop this, Bobby. I cannot take this anymore. And he's like, oh, really? Like, we're not having fun with the accent anymore? We're like, Bobby, every single thing you've said for a week has been in a poor British accent. Please give it a break. And he was really sad about that. But anyway, so now it's a Tennessee accent. And I don't know why we're in Orlando. We're just with JP. Like, it doesn't make sense. Love JP. That's all I'm saying about that fight.
This fight to me, and again, I won't say much, but this fight feels like the changing of the guard. It's like if I were to think of like who is the best comp for Darren Elkins, I'd be like, oh, it's JSP, right? That would be like the comp. I'd be like the guy who wears people out, drags them into deep water, suffocates them, and then just beats their ass. I think JP is way better everywhere than Elkins, striking, wrestling, grappling, everything. But it just feels like the changing of the guard. Like the UFC's like, all right, you two are the same. Dad, hand it down to your son, and he'll continue the legacy. Okay, here.
So the only thing I'm going to say on that, what you just said, is it's technically changing of the garb with a B. It's and that comes from an old. Yes, it actually comes.
Is that true?
The changing of the garb is the flag that used to be like of the house that used to be in charge. And so when a house would change, or when there'd be a takeover or something, that actually changed the flag and the like the cloth, the crest, okay? And so they'd actually change that because it would be a new crest and a new cloth and a new, whatever it was in old English times or so. Anyway, that's that. They're actually not changing the guard, they're changing the garb, which is we learn things.
Well, if you guys don't get anything from this podcast fight-wise, at least you have that, and for that, you're smarter.
So, who's up next fight-wise?
Okay, next fight, we have Michael Johnson versus Mark. God, I can never say his name, and I hear DeCasey?
DeCasey and Diakasi. And
Mark
I think
DeCasey? No, I say Diakasi, and I think I'm wrong.
Maybe when I say I hear Diakasi, I think I say that too, and I think I'm wrong. So it's probably DeCasey.
Because that's how it looks phonetically. I'm like, okay, Diakasi, and then I hear DeCasey. What's his name is always saying it. Bisping.
Man, I think I'm up. I'm up. I'll go.
Who is it?
Man, Johnson is one of those guys who's ultra vet. But for being an ultra vet, he doesn't really do all the ultra vet stuff. He kind of is like, he makes all the bad decisions. Yeah, he makes all of the bad decisions that we don't expect an ultra vet to do. He's so athletic. He's so talented. His wrestling, he was a really good wrestler back in the day. And I'm saying in MMA terms, he had good wrestling in the cage. He moves so well. He's been with Henry hoofed in them for years and years and years. Has actually left. He actually left, did a camp out in Arizona for Clay Guida, and then went back. And I don't know what that's all about. Um, I think he's well past his expiration date, and I believe that but he's so good. He really is so good. And he had a really close fight with Jamie Malarkey last time, and I think that fight was expected to be his last, and him get cut and kind of sail off into the sunset, and he spoiled that. But I think I didn't watch that fight back, but I remember thinking that Jamie Malarkey won that. It was very close. It was a split decision, but I remember thinking that Malarkey won myself, and maybe because I called Malarkey to win it.
It was so close. Here, I just watched it yesterday. So the first round, Michael Johnson dropped Malarkey, and then at the very end of the round, Malarkey dropped Johnson, and then I think they split the last two rounds one apiece pretty clearly. So it came down to how you scored the first round. Now Michael Johnson probably won like 4 minutes and 30 seconds of the round. He outstruck him by like 5 or 6 punches or something, dropped him, but honestly, kind of watching it back, I would have given it to Michael Johnson just because he dominated 4 minutes of the round and then got dropped at the very end, and they gave Malarkey's more significantly somehow.
On the other side of that, we have Diakasi, who's a very good striker. He does the right stuff. He checks kicks. You guys, if you're fighting, check a kick. If you're looking at fighters who fight, see if they check kicks. That alone tells you their pedigree. Because in MMA, we see so many guys at so many levels who do not check kicks. Man, DeCasey, gosh, I can't even say that. It sounds weird to say DeCasey. Mark, he's a really good striker. He went a distance pretty much striking with Fiziev, and he lost those exchanges, but he was never just completely molested in the exchanges. And he's a very good striker, but what really separates him, sorry, I was getting a phone call over here. I'm on my phone. And
oh, that's why you went blank for a minute.
Yeah,
I was worried the connection left.
No, I went blank. Sorry, guys. So Mark is almost like a Leon Edwards, pure striker when he first got in the UFC. Really focused a lot on his wrestling, and now his wrestling is really good. I think that's going to be the difference here. I think Mark is going to mix in his striking with his wrestling, really control the cage, find some takedowns, and really just win rounds. And then maybe it goes to a decision, or Michael Johnson does some crazy weird stuff that Michael Johnson does, and ends up getting caught in something. But I like DeCasey here. I just think he's so well-rounded. I think his cardio management is better these days than it used to be at the beginning. His wrestling is better. His striking pedigree is very good. I think he's just an overall well-rounded fighter right now who doesn't make as many mistakes as Johnson.
I agree with you. So we're kind of talking about the best spots on the card. For me, it's Natan Levy, regardless of odds. I just think that the disparity in fight IQ and skill level is probably the biggest gap between the two fighters. Everyone's saying Mark DeCasey and it's and JSP. The JSP, man, I can just see everybody going through hell and back and finding a winner in that one. I could see a lot of things that could go right and a lot of things that could go wrong. In this fight is almost the same way to me. Like, I know how good DeCasey is. He does everything correctly. Like, his striking is good. His range management is awesome. He's fast. He's dynamic. And now he's shown that he can wrestle. D1 DeCasey. The one case, I can't make that. But I don't know why. Like, Michael Johnson just has a way to, like, starch people. He's got, like, crazy hands and, like, this amazing skill set. So, I'm on the DeCasey train. Obviously, I think he wins this fight. I think he's good enough and can stay safe enough, and I'll grapple him. But it's hard for me to ever count out Michael Johnson. He just finds ways to, like, make people look human in some ways. Like, even Khabib, right? He kind of rocked him a bit, and every guy he just makes look a little bit human. So I'm going to go DeCasey here for obviously all the reasons. It's not, I'm not going out on a limb here.
Yeah.
But,
no,
I don't know why this one worries me in a bit.
Well, because Michael Johnson is really, really good. He's really,
Sometimes.
really good. Exactly. He just has really bad performances. Like, some days he just looks amazing, and other days you're like, who was that? What was that? And that's the thing. It's consistency. So you've got to go with the guy who's consistent over the guy who is a boomer bust.
I wonder. I wonder if these fights are early. I wonder if Michael Johnson's gonna fight early and then get his paycheck and head right over to the BKFC and get drunk in Hollywood, Florida. That's how I imagine this goes down.
I hope so.
Alrighty. Next up, we have Clay Guida and Scott Holtzman, and I will lead this one. This one's interesting to me. A couple old guys just doing the deal, drawing a line in the sand and going to slug it out for pride. I expected to love Scott Holtzman here, and it's giving me a really hard time to choose him. I know on paper, so Scott Holtzman used to train at the lab for years and years and years, and I just always remember thinking like, man, this guy's like this ultra testosterone guy, like just this meathead, but can swing and bang and how good he is. And honestly, he's only lost to good guys, right? He lost to Gamrot and to who else he lose to? Was it Beneil?
Yes, Beneil. And then he lost to
and he lost to Nick Lentz and Josh Emmett, Drew Dober. Like he's only lost to the top guys in the division. But a few things that are kind of tripping me up here. So one, he's 39. He's been off for a few years, coming off a knockout. I don't think he's training at the lab anymore. So what is his motivation to come back? Right? He's saying this is his retirement fight, which is always alarming, always a little bit concerning. He kind of just is in there with his chin up and slanging down and banging and a little bit low volume sometimes. I think he's got great clinch work, and when things get close, he throws elbows and he looks the part and does everything well. I think skill for skill, probably much better than Clay Guida. Like wrestling, striking, everywhere, I think he's better than Clay Guida. But watching the Gamrot fight, he had such problems with Gamrot's movement. I was sparring yesterday, and there's this kid. He's a newer kid. He's very green, so he's not amazing yet. And striking-wise, I can hang with most people who do things normally. This kid was just all over the place and throwing a million different strikes and kicks, and I'm like, dude, where the fuck? And he was piecing me up because I just couldn't catch him. Like I couldn't get a beat on him. Why is he doing what he's doing? And watching Holtzman just watch Clay Guida moving. I'm sorry, Gamrot moving back and forth. I was concerned, and I'm like, okay, now when Guida fights, he's so spastic and crazy, and head's always moving offline and throwing from stupid, weird angles. And Guida's still been active. He's still been fighting good guys and doing decent against good guys. One thing is will never fail him is the cardio. He's always going to grind and be a cardio freak. So my initial, I want to go all in on Holtzman because, Guida sucks, whatever. I don't know about it. I don't know what the motivation is. I don't know how he looks as a 39-year-old as opposed to a 37-year-old. I mean, how long has it been since Holtzman won a fight? 2020, early 2020. So it's been, 2.5 years or more since he's won a fight. So I don't know. My head tells my head. I don't know if I want to say head and heart. I should be on Holtzman here big time. And weirdly, I think Guida's going to sneak this one out somehow, some way. To me, the best spot here would probably be an over. That's the best spot for me.
It's just I was with you on this initially. You're looking at the fight, or I am going, oh man, Holtzman is so much more technical. He's a very good striker. He shows this right hand. He'll see the reaction from it, and then he'll either come back with an uppercut, or he is really good with his reads, and he pulls back, fires that two really well. He feints, he finds that right uppercut really well. His striking is really clean. I really like it. Gamrot took him down a couple of times, and he got right back up. He got right back up, did all the right stuff, which was solid. I mean, Gamrot's a very, very good wrestler. So he does all of that stuff so well. But you said it, his chin is just so high. He floats it so high. And I don't know that he can take a shot. And the shot that really put him down with the Gamrot fight was just a clean 1-2 down the middle.
1-2.
And it wasn't crazy hard. It wasn't crazy powerful. It was just a good, clean 1-2 right down the middle. And then you said it. He had a really hard time tracking Gamrot. He was just left and right. He couldn't find him. And the one thing with Guida is he's got the cardio, he's got the pace. He's got the lateral movement, and it doesn't seem like his chin has really failed him too much in his old age. And I think all things considered, I mean, can Holtzman find a right uppercut? Because we've seen Guida do some bad stuff as well. We saw the Puelles fight. He jumps in his guard, gets knee barred. I mean, just some bad fight IQ stuff every once in a while. But all in all, Guida does the right stuff. He moves well. His cardio is good. His chin holds up. And I think more than anything, it's a volume thing with Guida. It's an activity thing. If this fight goes to the distance, I got to give it to Guida off of offensively wrestling, off of lateral movement, off of throwing in the pocket and exchanges. The other thing that Holtzman does really well too, though, is he does throw those elbows off the clinch and off the break, which I like.
That's amazing.
And
great.
I really, really like Holtzman. And like you said, he's the more technical fighter. Well, he's the more technical striker. And I really, really like him. I just cannot, I couldn't financially back him, and I couldn't tell you guys to do it because of that chin issue. That worries me. I think this could be a pick 'em. I think it's up in the air. I've got to go, gun in my head, I've got to go with Guida just off of recent experience, recent activity, and chin. I got to go Guida here.
Yeah. To me, this is a big avoid fight. Like I can see cases for both. We're going to be made to look like an idiot or very, very smart. This is funny. Like, we do the show and we try to pick every single fight and like give you guys a winner that we feel. People are like, well, you said it with extra emphasis that this was going to be the one. Like, if we had our choice, we're probably picking 2 or 3 spots max on the whole card. And that's what we would actually do. Yep. But we like to give you guys kind of a broad range and give you guys some information on what we think and why we'd avoid it. So for you dum-dums out there, very clearly, I'm probably not going to take any action on this fight. There's not a spot where I feel immense conviction either way. Not on Guida, not on Holtzman. We could be made to look like an idiot when Holtzman walks out there and one punch KOs him in 10 seconds, or we're going to look like geniuses when Guida drags him into deep water and drowns him. So very clearly, guys, we're going to avoid this fight. We're not going to bet this fight as of now. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have, sorry, I was all looking at their records. So next up, we have Angela Hill versus Emily Ducati. Go ahead on this one.
So I didn't tape this at all. This is actually the only fight on the card I didn't tape, not even in the least. So you guys, I'm going Angela Hill from the rooftops to every which way you can go. And that's basically me just flipping a coin. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Don't hold me too closely to that, guys. Bet everything you own on Angela Hill. Everything you own, people. Everything you own.
God, people are so dumb. You know this recent trend. This is so funny. Every week now, somebody messaged me on Instagram or on Twitter, and they go, "Hey, you like Cortez this week? Why don't we bet 500 straight up?" And then every week my response is exactly the same. I just say, suck my dick. And then I get blocked immediately. And then like this guy did it on Twitter. He's like, hey, why don't we bet 500? And first of all, why the fuck would I do that? Right? If somebody's a favorite, why am I doing an even bet with you? If you want to be serious about it, then let's take the bookie stuff. You put up $625 and I'll put up 500. That's how it should go, right? If I'm booking your action, why would I give you even odds? It doesn't even make sense for me. To a guy on Twitter who's probably not going to pay if I win. He'll block me and say, oh, whatever. It just makes no sense. So people will be like, hey, pussy, let's bet. And then I fire back at them and they go, dude, you're such an asshole. You're so mean. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you coming at me. I'm minding my own business. I'm tweeting the amazing hog and people are bothering me instead. So anyways, that's a weird trend. With this one, guys, this is another one to me. This is just like Guida and Holtzman to me. I have been the biggest Emily Ducati fan for a long time. Even when she was fighting like in Bellator and the smaller organizations, I said, this girl should be in the UFC. She's better than 95% of these girls. She's going to be top 5, top 10. She's so good. She does everything well, right? She can wrestle. She can strike. Like, she is the full package. I think she is really, really good. And again, this is a matchup that pisses me off because I think Angela Hill is also very good and has come into her own. The one thing that scares me here is really just the volume and the length and the size of Angela Hill. She can stick that jab, stick the straights, and I just worry that the activity is going to be much greater. The other thing, too, is that Ducati just fought Angela's teammate, right? And she chewed up Jessica Penne with leg kicks, so I have to imagine they kind of know what the game plan is. Angie's got good takedown defense and good stand-ups. So that part might get neutralized for Ducati. So I think now it's a striking match. And who wins? Ducati's hands are very, very nice, but Angela also has a good way of not getting hit, staying long. So to me, I think the odds are actually about right on this one. I would give a slight edge maybe to Ducati. How old is Ducati? I don't think she's a spring chicken. She's 12-6 versus 14-12. So two records that are kind of like salty in the grand pantheon. She's 28 versus Angie, who is, I think, like 35 or something. How old is
I think she's
37?
Like 37. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I would give a very slight edge to Ducati. And again, this could be one they're like, oh, yeah, the younger woman just came out and starched her. Like it wasn't really that close. But Angie is in every tough fight, has fought nothing but the top level girls and been in close fights with every single one of them. So how could you ever count out Angie Hill? Like it's a very tough one to me. This would be one that I just enjoy and take notes on because if Ducati passes this test, she's on to bigger and better until she fights Bruna Brazil. All right. Next up, we have Nico Price versus Philip Rowe. I know you did a nice breakdown on this one. Why don't you go ahead on this?
Yeah. This is, first of all, you guys, a lot of this card is very, very close competitive fights. There's a lot of stuff on this card that you don't even want to touch because this is just a really well put together card in terms of like fight, just how these fights could play out. Generally, as a whole, I find that the first, 5 or 6 fights on the card are the best to make money at. Like these are people who haven't fought a ton in the UFC. The odds generally aren't really reflective of their skill set, and I think they're just better picks. As you start to move up on the card, these fights start to get a lot closer and closer and closer, and we're here where we are now. I said this on my breakdown on the Patreon. Watching tape on both of these guys, every single time I watched tape on one of them, I thought the other one was going to win. And I'm watching every single fight. I'm watching Phil Rowe. I'm just going, okay, he's going to lose because of this, and this. Then I go back and I watch Price, and I'm going, all right, he's going to lose because of this, and this. So you've got Phil Rowe, who's very athletic. He's tall. He's a good boxer. He manages his range well. I like his striking. His wrestling is pretty much non-existent at all, and he's got good. I would say I don't know if I'd say pure jiu-jitsu for today's standards, where he's worm guarding and going heel hook and stuff like that. But his actual technical jiu-jitsu is good. He's pulling half guard sweeps and coming up on top, and he actually trains, you could tell, actual jiu-jitsu. His cardio is not phenomenal. It tends to be the pressure, the style of fights he's fighting are these guys who are pressuring him like crazy. You had Gabe Green, a couple fights ago. I mean, that dude is just in your face. And then you've got Kosi and then Witt, who are both wrestlers who are taking him down, and he handled those well. The issue that I have with Rowe is, first of all, he doesn't check kicks at all. I mean, he doesn't check kicks. Nico Price throws a lot of low kicks. The other thing is you saw Kosi and Witt clip him a couple of times. I mean, these are wrestlers who can't punch their way out of anything, and then take him down with ease. Then on the other side of that, you've got Nico Price, who is like you would say, an ultra vet, just a dog. He's got one of, 2 knockouts from the bottom. He is always throwing everything at you. He's a wiggly guy, but his technical striking is not great at all. Like, geez, like a jab doesn't come straight. It like loops, and his cross is like, I mean, it just, nothing looks the part, and he's really slow. And I feel like I don't know if he has bad cardio, and I don't even want to say that at all, because he's always pushing through, but he comes out really hot in round 1, and then he definitely slows down. And when he slows down, he's naturally a slow human. And so when he slows down, he's physically slower. Like, he just is not a fast guy. But, I mean, you watch him in some of his last fights too. Everyone on the planet will catch his kick, dump him on the ground, and look at the Pineda fight. I mean, there's just so much wrong with what he does, but he does stuff. But he's just tough. He's in your face. He's throwing. He's going. I think the real technical edge of this has to go to Phil Rowe. I think his striking, he's just so dynamic. He really is. There's a lot to really like about him, but the all things equal, I've got to go with the dog on this. And I think that Nico Price has fought and beaten much, much, much better people. If you look at the fight with Kosi and look at the fight with Witt, I mean, he is just getting kind of thrown down to the ground. Both those guys are decent wrestlers, but they're clipping him and they're just in his face until, he finds his way up and caught them both with some good clean strikes. I lean Nico Price out of vetness, out of dogness, out of level of competition, out of more ways to win. But I am not confident in that at all, because I could see Rowe coming out there and just finding a way to start just being so much more athletic, so much faster. And that's what worries me, is the speed and the athleticism. But then again, you look at Rowe, and I'm going back and forth on this, which is what I did on the breakdown, because I think it's a very even fight. Philip Rowe doesn't have this one punch power. He's finding people when they're tired, just standing there. He's finding wrestlers tired, standing there, and he's clipping them. So I lean Nico Price here. I'm not confident on that pick. I just think the dog in him, in the pressure, the way that he fights, he's going to find a way to win. But this is a close one.
I'm actually very far on the Philip Rowe train, and maybe this is because I'm extremely biased, so take this with a grain of salt. But I think Phil has come a long way. I think I talk about this on every podcast. He used to live out here in Arizona, and he was a very, very mediocre, borderline, very bad fighter, bad jiu-jitsu guy. And he has leveled up in the last few years since he went to Jacare and with that team down there. What is it called? Fusion Excel.
Fusion Excel. Yep.
Yeah. He's leveled up.
Out of there right now.
Yeah. He has leveled up a million times. Watching Nico Price, Nico's just so slow. And you were talking about the leg kicks. Just watching the last fight, he does throw leg kicks, but he never really puts a stamp on the leg kicks. And what I worry is that he throws a lazy leg kick, and then you have a guy who's 6'3" and legitimately uses his reach very, very well, follows that leg kick over the top and puts him down, right? Half the fights that Nico Price has been winning, he's on his back, he's losing rounds, he's making mistakes over and over and over again. So I worry that you have a guy in Philip Rowe who's got good boxing. I think he has good power, good jiu-jitsu, makes a lot of correct decisions. I know Nico has beaten a lot of these guys, but man, if you don't have one crazy hammer fist or one insane up kick, like these like once in a lifetime knockouts, what does his record really look like? And what is everything really looking like? I think at the end of the day, Philip Rowe is a tall sip of water. And Gabe Green, I think, is good. Like a lot of the guys he's fought are good. Jason Witt could wrestle his ass off. Jason Witt is Jason Witt. But for me, it's Phil Rowe all day here. I don't know how Nico necessarily wins this fight or gets it down. He's not as good of a wrestler as Witt. Can he grind him? Maybe. But, man, he's been losing a lot. Like Pereira beat him within an inch of his life for the first 2 rounds. So I think Phil will be a little bit more calculated. I think he hits harder. He's longer. I got Phil Rowe here.
Okay. I'm not even opposed to that. I think it's so close in the way that the fight could play out. But I really think it's either going to be a like one of those push through, grind, go fights, or Phil Rowe just looks amazing. This is coming out party. But yeah, I can't. So weird. What this fight worries me. It's one of those ones I don't want to touch because I could see it playing out very specifically 2 different ways. That's it.
Let's just list every possible outcome like we usually do, and
I know
one of them is going to hit. One of them will be correct.
Yeah. Nah, I'm going with Nico Price here. I'm going with Nico Price. I'm staying with that. But
I live by one rule when I gamble. I actually got this from Mike's MMA picks. Shout out Mike's MMA picks. He's
what are
the
you doing
glue
with
of
your face over there? Leave your face alone.
I had a pimple and it's like scabbed up. I ripped it off right now.
Don't do that right now. I don't want to see that.
People will leave. They'll be like, "Oh, last time he was eating. Now this time he's picking pimples, biting his nails."
I'm about to leave. I'm going to leave.
I do too much stuff on the podcast. Just real life, guys. Get a peek. Shout out to Mike's MMA picks. I think he's the glue of the MMA community. I think he's a very good guy. He's hilarious. Somehow, like in a serial killer way, he knows where I live. But I told him one simple rule, and I think he echoes my sentiment. Never bet a white. That's just kind of the rule that I live by, is never bet a white.
That's always good. There's another
Yep.
rule is always bet on black.
Whoa, this one's double. Hey, did you guys just hear that? Phil Rowe's a lock this week.
Yep. I think all of my picks have just changed. The words of wise Wesley Snipes. And,
All right, well, the next
Passenger
matchup is Eric
57.
Anders versus Kyle Dawkins, which is a white and a black. And
Yeah, so we already know what to pick.
there we go. I think we're not
Um,
talking about this one, correct, guys? Or
yeah,
correct?
I mean, your boy has been with me for fights and fights and fights now. Love me some your boy. Um, you know, that's that. Who's
All
up
right.
next?
So then the next fight will be Jack Hermanson versus Roman Dolidze.
Okay, I got to go with this one. I don't even know where we're at or what we're doing, but I'm going to keep
Okay.
it simple. I've got to go with
Okay.
this one. So, all of the ways this could play out, I don't care. I have been picking against Roman Dolidze every fight since we've been doing this. I'm pretty certain. I cannot waver now. Oh, and I've been wrong on probably every fight with Roman Dolidze. So, I am sticking with it until I'm right. Hermanson is going to win. It's going to be a Trevin Giles type of fight. Um, I do not care. I do not care who Roman is fighting right now. I am picking against Roman until Roman loses. And I think this is going to be the one where I'm right.
I think syndicates all over the world would pay millions of dollars to have that kind of consulting advice as far as wagering. Fuck what the technicals say. Let's no, but I'm with you. You actually know what this matchup reminds me of the most is kind of what we talked about is Brendan Allen versus Christoph Jotko. This is that matchup to me. You have one guy in Hermanson who just literally does everything right. Like he is so by the book, makes zero mistakes, fight IQ is through the roof. He's fought everybody on earth and looked great in some matchups and then loses to the top guys versus Roman Dolidze, who's like big and explosive and will look great some fights and then, shit in other fights. So I think by our principles, we have to choose Hermanson. But just even on a technical aspect, I really like Hermanson here. I think his striking is much cleaner. I think his wrestling is good enough to neutralize the leads. I think his volume, I think his pressure. I think everything for me is on the Hermanson side. Now, could he get starched? Yes, absolutely. But it's really hard for me to bet on something that has to happen in a fight as opposed to the fighter who's better bell to bell, who will win rounds and do it. So I actually think Hermanson will probably be a big play for me. And if I'm not mistaken, the odds are pretty tight on this one. I barely ever look at odds. I look at them. Sorry, guys. Don't get me wrong, but I don't memorize them. Hermanson's minus 173. Dolidze is plus 148 on our sponsor Betonline. I like Hermanson, guys. To me, it's almost like a Natan Levy. Now, the skill gap is a lot closer than Levy and Valdez is, but I just think Hermanson is the ultra vet. He's still in the prime of his career, fighting good guys and going to make a run. To me, Dolidze stepping in short notice. We haven't seen his cardio tested against anyone that would put up resistance. Hermanson's the guy, right? He's gone 5 rounds. He's got a good jab, uses his fundamentals. To me, it's Hermanson all day.
Done. Love it.
All right. Next up, we have, and by the way, that last fight, the size difference, usually I'm but the size difference doesn't matter that much. He was 3 feet taller than freaking Phil Hawes. That was crazy. All right. The next fight we have is Tai Tuivasa versus Sergey Pavlovich.
All right. Give us your thoughts on that.
This is a tough one for me. I have told you for not years and years, but a year, that Tai is a lot better than people give him credit for. People see him with the shoeies after the fights, after these crazy knockouts, and he's in slugfest, and they go, man, he's just so wild, and he just comes to bang. But watch Tai striking. It is actually very technical. He throws leg kicks. He moves really well. He makes reads the entire time. Tai is so much better of a striker than people give him credit for. Then on the other end of things, you got Sergey Pavlovich, who is slow and he's stiff, but he's big and he's powerful and he sticks to the meat and the potatoes. He throws a jab and a right hand, and those things that I really, really like. This one is very tough to me because I think that Tai moves so much better, right? He just Sergey is so stiff and just everything is just tense and stiff and buttoned up, where Tai is kind of free flowing and he gets in there and he just moves so well. I'm having a tough time articulating what I'm talking about, but there's a lot of these kind of matchups. I would pick Tai every day of the week if he didn't just come off of a brutal beating at the hands of Cyril Gahn. Like, I think Tai is a bad matchup for him because he does do a lot of things well. Even his defensive grappling sometimes is decent enough. Like, he can sprawl, he can get up. He does these things decently well. If Tai didn't just get shit beat out of him, I would be on Tai all day. I think this is a setup spot for Sergey, probably. Like, the UFC is like, all right, we're going to give you this one. We think you're going to win it, and then you're going to go to the upper echelon. I think I picked Sergey, but I don't feel good about this one at all. I think somebody's going to go to sleep, obviously. I mean, it's a heavyweight fight, but I think Tai is going to force the fight, and then we're going to see Sergey's power come through, or I think we see Sergey get tired, and then Tai puts it on him late.
Yeah, it comes down to Tai's chin. It all comes down to Tai's chin. He gets hurt in a good amount of
Every fight, yes.
But he's fighting Derek Lewis. He's fighting Greg Hardy. He's fighting these massive, massive guys with big power. And so it's like, is he taking those? Is it impressive that he's taking those shots and he doesn't die, or is he getting chinned? You know, and it's hard to figure out which one it is because it happens so much. But he's fighting these guys. What you said, Tai does really well, and I talked about this earlier with the Holtzman fight, is he fakes that right hand, okay? So he shows a really big right hand and fakes the read, fakes it big, and then he level changes forward, and if you check hook over the top, he loops and check hooks as he's going under you right there. He does a really good job of rolling in the pocket and exchanging in the pocket without getting hit, but he doesn't take turns. He fires as he fires, and he rolls. He has really good head movement. He has really good leg. Actually, even before we get to the leg kicks, because I want to talk about something negative about that. His clinch work is really good. He controls the clinch well, and he throws really good uppercuts and elbows off of the break. He really fights in the clinch well. He rolls on the inside well. What he does, though, is he has a hard time with people like Sergey, who don't do a lot, who don't press, who stand on the outside and jab. We saw that with Cyril Gahn. We've seen that in his past fights. When people don't engage and they just kind of touch, he has a much harder time with that. He's a technical brawler. He
needs people to engage him.
Yes, and he does the best. He's a very good technical brawler there. But on the other side of that, too, he's sorry, I lost my train of thought as I'm seeing JP and Eddie and the gang walking by me over there. He does that well, but then he also mixes up his leg kicks. And his leg kicks, though, are not what you want in this fight, because Sergey does a really, really, really good job timing leg kicks and firing. When people throw naked leg kicks at him, he steps in with a jab cross counter and really times it well. So I don't think Tai is going to want to do that. Over the years that we've seen Tai in the UFC, he's gotten better and better and better. He's gotten more technical. His head movement is better. I really like Tai's skill set here. And then, on the other side, Sergey, you said it, he's meat and potatoes boxing. But he does what Fedor used to do, is a lot of the Russians back in the day, we saw this a lot more with them, and even the boxers, they cast their hands. So even like right hands, they loop them down, and it's thumb down. Even their hooks, they're always thumb down, looping stuff there. And it creates a really good, powerful punch. But if you remember, Fedor broke his thumbs. Like almost every fight, he had to have thumb surgery. And it's basically your chin and my thumb. Like, he's sacrificing his thumb and breaking his hands every fight for that power. I mean, it's kind of a trade-off thing. The thing with Sergey, though, is he needs people to fight him, or he doesn't know how to fight. If you look at his last fight before his UFC debut, he just stood there for 5 rounds, not doing anything. And he will just stand there and not do anything unless you exchange. He's a counter fighter, but he needs you to engage, or he doesn't really engage well. He doesn't pull the counters out. If it goes to a decision, and first of all, let's look at quality of opponents too. I mean, Tai has fought a much better echelon of fighters. Sergey is knocking out Maurice Green, who is a super nice guy, but not a world beater. And who's the other one? Goem. He knocked out, I forget his
Marcelo
name.
Golm, yeah,
Marcelo Goem.
Shamil,
Um,
Derek Lewis, all these old guys.
yeah, and so whatever. But Sergey is very good. This fight is a who gets pushed fight. Sergey is the Russian striker who is on a tear, only has one loss. They can build him. Tuivasa just lost to Cyril Gahn. This is a rebound fight for him. The winner gets pushed. I lean Tuivasa on this. I think if it goes to a decision, I think it's got to be Tuivasa due to volume. I think Tuivasa can push the pace and get Sergey to kind of throw more than he wants, which maybe it tires him out. We'll see. My only worry is the chin. And that is a big worry here, you guys. I mean, that's a big, big worry. I think he still has a little bit of chin left in him. I lean to Tuivasa. I think he's the more technical fighter. The chin worries me. That's where I'm at.
The UFC would go crazy if Ty is a superstar, I think. Like with the Shui stuff, like the UFC would love Ty to win here, but I think they are maybe saying they cashed their tickets on Ty and they got what they needed out of him fighting Gone and kind of seeing that level. And I think maybe now they're giving it to Sergey, but it's just weird because Sergey man, is that guy marketable at all? He's got no personality. He's got nothing about him that's like endearing at all. Like he's the most even for Russian standards, right? Like they push Khabib and Zuba and like all these guys. Like Sergey is awful. Like just personality wise, like awful. Anyways,
but even fight wise, unless he lands that right hand, he's not a fun fighter to watch. He just stands there. He stands there and waits. He's borderline patient and inactive or passive. I don't know which one he is, but he just
this matchup makes zero sense to me. If you look at this as a sport, okay, fine. If you look at this as a business and entertainment, this matchup just makes no sense to me. The guy that they actually have a superstar and would draw tickets and gets everybody excited is probably going to lose the fight to this guy who's just that's the time we take a nap before the next two fights.
Yep.
All right. Now we move on to Mateus Nicolau versus Matthew Danger Schnell.
So go on this one. I think it's you, but go on this one, but we got to speed this up a little bit. I've got to do some fight stuff here soon, some interviews and some other stuff. So hit this. Let's kind of run through these last few and we'll close this up, guys.
Damn, Nicolau's minus 370. That's pretty insane to me. I think Schnell gets disrespected all the time. I think he does a lot of things very, very well. He's got good striking. He really does have good striking. I think he's got good jiu-jitsu. I think he can do a lot of things well. He's a big body for the division. End of the day, I think Nicolau is a different kind of talent. I think he's the goods. Weirdly, I think he fights down to competition as opposed to fighting up to competition. I think Schnell got his last great W against Sue. That was an incredible fight. I mean, he gutted it out. He's hilarious. He's a good personality. He's having a baby right now, which I think is maybe a negative in the fight game, just mind elsewhere. I have to go Nicolau here, but I think the odds, for the value people, I think the odds should be much closer than where they are skill for skill.
Yeah, we've talked about it before. I love Matt. I think he's awesome person. He's funny. I would say he sounds like Gambit. Love me some Schnell. I think his last fight and his last win was, gosh, it was beautiful. Come from behind Hail Mary. That was amazing. But yeah, I think Nicolau is just on the ground. He's just a little bit more of a talent. He really is slick. I've got to go with him for the win. I hope Matt pulls out another hat trick. I hope he pulls out, another ace up his sleeve. I don't see it happening.
How many can you have? That's what I always say. The guys that I get burned on that win in these like fabulous ways, I'm always like, okay, well, it's not going to happen again. So now I'm ready to unload the boat because it can't just keep happening. All right. So that takes us to the co-main event. And I already know how you feel about this one. So this one will be very short and sweet. We have Rafael Dos Anjos, RDA versus Brian Barberena.
Brian is getting taken down and smothered for as long as it takes. He's tough. He looked really good against Robbie. He's as tough as can be. He's looked really good lately. He's had some back surgeries and kind of had a resurgence of sorts. I think Dos Anjos is tough. He's good. He's coming off a great performance over who was it? Short notice
Moicano.
fight,
Moicano.
Moicano. Um, and RDA is old. He checks that box, but his wrestling's phenomenal. His cardio is great. He doesn't give us any reason to suspect that he is not going to come in like the RDA we all know. Throw, swing, take him down. Throw, swing, take him down. I think Barberena has got to land that one big punch. But we've already seen this fight in sorts with Jason Witt. I mean, he's going to get taken down again and again and again. I think this is a layup for RDA.
Yep, right there with you. RDA is probably pound for pound the most dependable fighter. He doesn't make any mistakes. He does everything well. Best fight IQ. You always know what you're going to get with RDA. Now, the 600 price tag sucks. I think you just got to pay the piper, honestly. I mean, it's probably worth it here. Barberena doesn't have that one-punch power that's going to put out RDA. So, it sucks. It is what it is, but we're about making money. So,
Yeah.
All right. Then that takes us to the main event of the evening. We have Mr. Stephen Thompson versus Kevin Holland at welterweight.
I got to keep this short just for time purposes because I have stuff going on. The thing with Holland is first of all, I mean, Holland's great. And I think him saying he was retired last time, I think that was just him talking and just messing. I don't think there was any truth to that at all. So I don't think is he in the game? Is he out of the game? Type of thing. I think he cashed his last, fight with Chimaev, but I think he's just messing, talking to talk. So I would put zero stock in that. He is very talented. His striking is great. He moves well. Love me some Kevin Holland. The thing though is the way Kevin Holland beats people is he's good on the ground. They don't, is he going to jiu-jitsu them? Is he striking? Are they trying to shoot? Are they this and that? We know what's going to happen in this fight. We know what Wonderboy's going to do. Wonderboy's going to Wonderboy. He's going to stand up. He's going to move in and out. He's lateral. So now this really just comes down to a striking fight. This isn't a striking fight where Holland's going to shoot and come up and mix up and then he can catch Wonderboy like dropping his hands and, off the break or off of this and that. This is a pure karate fight. And Wonderboy, outside of errant punch clipping him because he's a little bit older now, is he 38 or 39, something around that? As long as his chin holds up, because old is real. I'm old, and old recognizes old. I think this is a clear Wonderboy fight because I think the way that you deal with a Wonderboy is you big looping overhands and you wrestle and you come up. Who has really outstruck Wonderboy who hasn't tried to wrestle? And I don't know that Holland is going to be the guy with, although I like his striking, he's not. I don't think he's going to be able to handle Wonderboy at all.
Oh, I'm so much the other way. So I know we'll keep this short. Kevin Holland, I think Wonderboy's beating guys, just like we talked about, who are very conventional and they follow him and they try to track his movements and he picks them apart and looks amazing doing it. We saw Vicente Luque have a little success. We saw Tyron Woodley have a little success. Those are short guys that just kind of throw the overhands like you said. Kevin Holland is 6'3", and a lot of times Stephen Thompson is moving with his hands down, his head back, and these guys are missing by just an inch. Now he's older, he's slower, he's losing a little reaction time. He's been beat in his last two. Kevin is prime of his career. He's long, he's dynamic, and he throws punches from the craziest angles. He's always throwing something weird, and I think Stephen Thompson's going to have a tough time seeing that. Weirdly, I think we could see Kevin Holland wrestle, and I think he will have success wrestling. I think his jiu-jitsu is excellent. My favorite play here, I just looked at the spread. Oh, never mind. The spread's the other way. So never mind on that. I like Kevin Holland.
Who's the favorite in this?
Kevin.
Is he?
Yeah. Kevin is a minus 175 and Stephen Thompson's plus 150. I like Kevin Holland, and I like Kevin Holland inside the distance. I think he chins him pretty badly, and I think this is the last hurrah of Mr. Stephen Thompson.
Interesting. I could see all those things happening. I don't think it does. The thing where I disagree is the wrestling. I don't think Holland's wrestling is very good, and I don't think he is going to be able to get Thompson down more than a trip, a kick, a butt touches, and Thompson is right back up. So I don't think he'll be able to wrestle Thompson, and I don't think he'll be able to keep him down. I think his best chance is to go opposite stance and fire as Thompson is kicking.
All right,
fire
pussy.
straight.
Well, let's bet 500 on it.
What would dude? Why you got to be a dick, dude? Don't be a dick.
Let's bet 500 on it, pussy. All right.
All right, you guys, we are out. We didn't even go through sponsors. We love you, Bet Online. Check out the Patreon. My memoir's there, all that good stuff. Love you guys. I'm out.
All right. Peace.